For me, I think the biggest thing that football taught me was how to overcome adversity.
At some point in your life, you're going to have some tough times.
You have to have that next play mentality.
That cohesiveness and that working together, that's really something special that you can't get in a lot of other areas.
When you practice that and you live that in other phases of your life, it becomes second nature because all you know how to do is fight.
It's not an easy game. If it were easy, everyone would do it.
You start to appreciate the smaller contributions that people make. You don't just look at the big one because you knew it took 6 or 7 other guys who are unsung.
And you can't take shortcuts and be successful.
Doing what they do to make it possible for the guy getting the press clippings or whatever it might be.
In this game, whether it's as a coach or a player.
So I would certainly say that you definitely got a very quick lesson in how to overcome adversity playing football.
Welcome to another edition of Talking Ball with the Czar. I'm Emory Hunt, the Czar of the Playbook, here on the campus of Virginia Union University with head football coach Mark James. Coach, appreciate you taking time.
Thank you for coming.
Well, you are a highly successful head coach in the state of Florida, which has further recruiting grounds, so you had a lot of experience doing that. What were you able to draw from that experience that helped you get off to a great start here at Virginia Union?
Well, first of all, a lot of people underestimate the value of coaching at the high school level. Actually, I started at the Little League level and worked my way up to high school. You're talking about being able to understand recruiting from the other aspect of it as a head high school coach, understanding the academics and what academics the student athletes need to project to whatever level, whether it's Division I, II, or NAIA. So you definitely have an advantage in that way. You also have interpersonal skills because when you're in high school, you have to deal more keenly with the parents. And, it's a year-by-year process. And then when you get into the recruiting process, you're kind of tied to the hip with the parents because you need them to help you with things that you can't necessarily do for yourself. You could only gather the data for the young people. You can't make them take a test. You can't make them register in certain things like that. So it's definitely an experience that I gained at the high school level that I think prepared me for the collegiate level.
And you think that's a unique part that a lot of coaches should have coming in that they kind of miss the boat on once they take a head coaching job?
Absolutely. And, I think there's one more part to that. I mean, when you look at recruiting, definitely on the Division II level, you're interdependent upon junior college relationships and also, the relationships with college coaches. Well, who better to have relationship with college coaches than, high school coaches that, have high-level kids every year go to D1 or D2 schools. So that really was a blessing in disguise. The relationships that I was able to build with those large college coaches that I use today, because in the Division II level and the 1AA level, many times your program survives on guys that transfer. And when you have those relationships, you're able to benefit from it.
You were an outstanding defensive lineman in college, and you were an offensive coordinator at St. Paul's College. And that's a unique perspective because you played on one side, coached on one side. A lot of guys tend to be one-sided in their entire career. How has both experiences kind of, developed your approach here at Virginia Union? Because you guys are equally strong on both sides of the ball.
Well, first of all, from the aspect of from a coach's perspective, I recommend all of our coaches, our young coaches that are around us, to coach on the opposite side of the ball that they played on. There's reasons that I didn't invent that. I saw Jimmy Johnson do a lot of that at University of Miami. Basically, a good offensive coordinator is somebody that's a good defensive mind, and vice versa, a good offensive coordinator is somebody that's a good defensive coordinator because you know the things that work against you the best, and you're able to adjust. Because being a coordinator is just not the X and the O's, it's the in-game transition and adjustments that a coach has to make. So I advise everybody to do that. So for me, after college, I spent most of my time on the offensive side of the ball. And when I got my first head coaching high school job, that's exactly what I did. I controlled my offense. Why? Even though on defense, if they can't score, they can't win. Offensively, if you can't control the ball and lessen the mistakes, then you're putting yourself in a situation of a dogfight every week. So, I went out, traveled the whole country, met with every coach I could. So what we do is a hybrid of Urban Meyer / Hal Mummy / of the old FAMU, the hobo offense. And we just, take a variety of those things and look at the most explosive things that they did. And we came up with our own offensive philosophy behind it. But, everywhere I've coached has been from the offensive perspective. 2 years ago, I took back over the defense. And we did pretty well because, again, I was bringing an offensive perspective into a defensive position.
And that versatility is very important, like you mentioned. And again, playing defensive line, did that give you almost like an intimate knowledge of how offensive line plays? 'Cause I think that's one of the harder things to coach.
Absolutely. I mean, the inner workings of every offensive line strategy, no matter what you're running, gap control or zone, you got to know what defensive linemen are doing. You got to know what their coach is trying to get them to do. And vice versa. On the defensive side, we've got to know all of the blocking schemes, whether it's a scoop block, whether it's a double team, whether it's a hinge block. We speak and teach all those things on both sides, so those young men will be more versatile in what they're doing and be a step ahead mentally, not just physically, with the players they play against.
A lot of people think, they take over a program and you can just step right in, recruit well, and you go and win. But building a program is a process. So where you are in this process here at Virginia Union, and where do you feel as though you still have to go?
Well, when we took this program over, the program was 3-7. So when you adopt the program, you adopt the good and the bad. You adopt what was recruited and what wasn't. So we aggressively worked to add a couple pieces to the pie, but basically we were dealing with the young men that we had here. We went from 3-7 to 7-3. And then we went 8-2, went into the NCAA playoffs, and then last year we were 5-5. What people have to understand about building a program, you can't build a championship before you build a program. You have to correct all the things that are on the foundation, and then you might have an upward peak early, or you might have an upward peak late. But then it might level out, but then you'll go to where your program will actually be. Program building, is sequential in, construction, as in, it's not something where you can you build a foundation and hurry and then take your time with the upward structure. You have to take your time with the foundation. And once you do the foundation right, you'll get the right kids. People will help give to your program, and you'll be able to move the program in a positive manner. And the key is sustainability. People want to win, but they don't want to go through a process of sustaining what they have. So you're talking about getting the young guys. Like last year, we played with a lot of young guys. Young guys are going to make young guy mistakes. But those same young guys that were 5-5 will help us to rebound this year, because those are the mistakes they lived through. They're better seasoned players, and they're better character kids.
And when you look at, you mentioned the recruiting part, and I think that's critical in any level of football. From a development perspective, how important is it to develop the ancillary things around the program, like the community and then the administration, before you even get to thinking about doing stuff on the field?
Important. Many schools, larger programs already have things built in. They already have, everybody makes an appointment with them as soon as you get the job. In smaller programs, you have to put, 15 to 20% of your time into building what is the brand of your program. Not only on campus, but you have to do it in the community. So when we first got here, our main thing was changing the culture on the campus regarding football, regarding athletics. And we did that. We turned games that, might have had a quarter of the stadium filled to, all the students coming and, the stadium being packed and having, I think it was the third largest attendance in Division II for 2 years sustained. So, that's the key thing. It's all about sustainability. It's all about being able to, set your goals, but set achievable goals. Set goals in which you can get at the Division II level. We know that we're not going to get ESPN 100s, okay? But what we can do is take kids that were underrated and that would not get a chance on the Division I level and have time for them to grow. And that's the key. What I encourage all the younger coaches that take jobs is get younger guys and give them an opportunity to grow. If it's a win now perspective, it's a bad perspective. You got to have a build now perspective. Build a program now. And once you build a program now, then everything else will come around, that the community will buy into it. And once you get the community buy-in, the kids see that, they'll buy in, and then it's a match.
Coach, I see you're a thinking man. You like to think things through, and going through the film and watching how competitive and how intense you guys are out there, you plan a lot of things out, but that also shows a lot of passion that you have for the game, a lot of love for the game. What would it be that you say that you love about the game the most?
Well, first of all, I look at what the game has done for me. I'm from South Florida, so growing up in South Florida, football was a major getaway, a major attraction. In Florida, you do regular football in the fall, starts in the summer and goes to the fall, and then you have spring football. So football was year round. Everybody, from growing up as a kid, the big thing was to be carrying a helmet and on your bicycle, riding to practice. It was a big thing in South Florida. That passion, I think, engrafted with the people that coached me. A legend by the name of Coach Otis Gray, head coach at Dillard High School. The passion that he had toward the game. I always said I wanted to model my coaching after him, and I've kind of fell into his kind of perspective. I didn't notice when I did it, but once people said certain things to me, I've adopted his passion. Then when I had the opportunity to be at University of Louisville for a short time, I saw Howard Schnellenberg, and I saw the passion of fans at a larger level and how they get fanatically and they support the love of the game. And then at Virginia Union, I saw the tradition. I saw the tradition of black college football, and that just kind of really encouraged me. And so when I went home, that's why I coached. I wanted to give back, to the community. And there's really, if there's a greater way to give back to the community except for maybe feeding the hungry, a football coach, you coach many sports, okay? But you coach basketball, there's 11 guys on the team. You coach, tennis, golf is an individual sport. Football, average a team of 80 to 100 kids. You have the opportunity to impact 80 lives. That's like being a pastor. And it's something that you can't approach in a non-passionate way. It's either you are or you're not. And I think people don't find success with coaching, and speaking to the young people now, when they're not passionate about it. When you're chasing a paycheck, it's one of the worst things to do because of the time that you have to put in. So as far as why I'm as passionate as the way I am, it's because of the people that I've been around and the responsibilities that those that have raised me have held me to be able to do in this game.
And that probably has yielded itself to a lot of life lessons you've learned. What will be some of the things you've learned from the game of football? What does football really teach you?
Well, let me tell you something. First of all, discipline, self-discipline. Everybody could talk about discipline and say, your kids have to be disciplined. People don't really know what it means. To really embark upon and plant discipline in people, to the fact that when you're not around them, that they use self-discipline. Those are the levels of discipline that change lives. Many young people don't get it until after they make a mistake, and then they'll say, wow, well, this is what I was told, and all the sayings my coach would say in the meetings and stuff like that. But discipline, man, self-discipline. You translate it to life, Do I get in that relationship? Do I make that friendship? Do I get in that car with somebody that I don't, all those decisions, coaching has really helped me because it's allowed you to think. You said that, I seem like a thinking man. You have to think. And because you're living in a life with so many intangibles that if you don't think in a split second, you don't know where you can end up. So good or bad. So that's why I would say is the main thrust out of football. And it teaches you about family and taking care of family. So, there's a head coach, there's assistant coaches, there's the trainers, okay, and then there's the people that might, wash the clothes. That's the hierarchy of a family. You have the mother or the father, the breadwinners, and then you have the children and their responsibilities of what they have to get done to make sure that the family moves. So that's what it teaches you. It teaches you brotherhood. Really, people say, oh, that, I'm a friend or I'm a brother, sister. Brotherhood in football. I remember more football friends than I would have in general life. I've met, other people with passing or that I grew up with. The people that I was on teams with, that we struggled together, we bled together, we played together, sweat together. That's what it taught me. So discipline and brotherhood and understanding family.
You were a Virginia Union grad, which is unique. Now you're back here coaching at your alma mater. How important was it for you to come back and lead this program to where you want to go?
Well, I think it's the course that God placed me on. Coaching, I got into coaching because of my high school coach. I had the unique opportunity to go back and was the head coach at my high school that I played at. Then the opportunity came down the line to become the head coach at, I don't know if I'm the only coach in history to do that, but it's definitely a unique opportunity which lends itself to a unique responsibility because you're just not coaching for wins, you're coaching for the uplifting of your program that you have, that sheepskin on your wall, and you represent. Not only that, my son went here, my oldest son graduated from here. So you have a great responsibility in moving your school and, thinking greater of your school than somebody from the outside might think of it. It's important to understand, the history of our school. And, you're talking about the third oldest HBCU and the opportunity that it gave me to come to school and finish and graduate and really start to appreciate academics in my life. So, that debt I can never repay, but it definitely has lit my love for HBCUs.
And you mentioned HBCU, and it's one of the unique segments of college football. Is that something that you also think about as well, the significance of coaching at an HBCU, or what is the significance of coaching here?
Well, I can tell you my background in it is that when I was a high school coach, we started Aware Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization, athletes working and achieving realistic education, which is just all about the education of understanding what you need to do to go from point A to point B. And what we really did was open the doors for people, because when I was in South Florida and I was coming up as a high school student, I didn't know what HBCUs were because everybody saw University of Miami, everybody saw Florida State. So it was kind of like HBCUs were the school that you went to if you didn't go to those two, or University of Florida. But when I got an education on HBCUs, when I actually came here, I started to understand the importance of them and how HBCUs has really helped African American student athletes. I'm just going to pinpoint on that because it has allowed a lot of these athletes that did not get larger opportunities or had to leave larger opportunities, an opportunity to finish their degree. It is important, not only for my success, but the success of many. And many great men and women have gone to HBCUs. And after I started opening up my mind and doing my own research, we started that organization, and thousands of young men and women we sent to HBCUs. We started with Grambling, and then we went to Florida Memorial and all the schools on the East Coast, up to Morgan State. We started we did a Black College tour every year. So, from my perspective, I was invested in it. Then, before I even thought about coming and coaching college ball here, because I really approached that on accident or not on purpose. I was working for an organization that my specific duty, I was running a part of the company where we was selling online, trying to bring in colleges to go more online. And my department that I started based on my love for HBCUs was, the HBCU department. And, it was a great opportunity that I had. And then, obviously I left there to come here. So my perspective is very unique when it comes to encouraging younger coaches, not just black coaches, white coaches, and all over. I have a diverse staff because I think the HBCUs have a lot to offer people. For the young coaches, it's a great place to start out. A great place to be able to exercise your coaching bones and find out what you can do and you can't do in the collegiate world. So it has served the masses, and I think it has its place.
Every time I meet with a coach, I always like to ask what's their coaching philosophy, because I like to pick the brains of those that have been successful and those that are doing great things with their program. So Coach, what's one piece of your philosophy that has made you successful?
Simple. Work with what you have and win with the work that you put in. That's how simple it is. I've never coached at a D1A school where you walk in and they've got 5 pair of shoes and all these things hanging up for me. Work with what you have. When we were 3-7 before I took over the job, and then we became 7-3, we worked with the same players. Change their philosophy. Change your philosophy. Change the way that you think things should be based on what you have. It's great to have an offensive playbook and a defensive playbook, but do you have the kids to run it? Work with the coaches that you have. Do the best to give them professional development. Do the best to make sure that they're trying to hone in on their craft and their skills and become better in what they do. And when the head coach transitions that to the assistant coaches, and then he shows his players that he cares about, just don't care about them during the games or in the preparation for games. Are you trying to help them get internships? Are you trying to make sure that a guy that doesn't like science or getting the F's in science, this is not a pre-med major? Don't put them in bogus majors in which they can't get a job. So you got to care about the people. I have 3 sons, and I treat every young man decisions like if I was dealing with my son. It is important to be unique, transparent, but you got to be real. So my philosophy is basically work with what you have. You're gonna win if you're true to that. People think that wins and losses are the numbers that are on the scoreboard or on the columns in the newspaper. The wins and losses is how do your people graduate from your program? If you're a high school coach, are your kids going to college? If you're a college coach, are they transitioning for jobs? Well, you can't gauge what you do by your guys you have in the NFL, because if I'm at a D1 school in Virginia, history has shown me, last year only 2 guys got drafted from the D1A schools in Virginia. So it has to be more than that. And I think that philosophy that if I could give to anybody, and I keep saying to young coaches, because that's what I'm most worried about. Everybody's looking for a microwavable solution to something that is not. And some people are turning coaching into, and I don't want to offend anybody by this, it's just like, somebody in church, they listen to themselves, I guess, talk in the mirror, and all of a sudden they think they're a preacher, they want to start their own church, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing with this. Be loyal to the people you're working with. Take time to learn. That's the difference. Back in the day, those coaches that were foundation members, they might sit up under a coach for 8 to 10 years just learning before they even establish what their own philosophy is. Because your language is the combination of the environment that you're around. So if your language that you speak is a combination of everybody that you're around, well, you know what? So is everything else. So it can't be microwaved. It's got to be something that has to be in real time and developed in time. So that's how you win. That's how you win. And then eventually that'll turn into wins on the scoreboard. So, it's all about those pieces. You got to work with what you got, though. You got to work with what you got. You got to be realistic with what you got. Don't go to the AFCA convention and, buy a book and think that you're going to buy the book and that's going to be the difference. Don't read a book and create your own philosophy based on what somebody else wrote. Okay? That's why God gave everybody, thinking capacity. Because I can name your philosophy, but then how does that relate to me? So in my life, I've always had to work for everything I have. So I always work with what I got, and to try to get where I'm trying to go.
What would a student athlete gain from coming to Virginia Union? Why would a student athlete choose Virginia Union?
Number one, Virginia Union is a school that fits a variety of people. Virginia Union is a small classroom setting school, small private Christian college. So obviously, if you fit some of those needs, it will fill that role. The number one thing, like I said, with the small classroom setting, it makes the school intimate. It makes the ability to meet with professors and deans more of an immediate response, rather than having to wait, maybe being able to see them twice a year. You can see somebody once or twice a week. That makes a difference. Also, it makes a difference in the student experience. Virginia Union is a family-oriented place. Everybody knows everybody. When your student population is 1,500, everybody kind of knows everybody. People get involved in the different things around the community. People get involved in the Greek life, the athletics. So when it's so small like this, it gives you an opportunity to really appreciate the roses as you pass by. In larger schools, many times students, they start the fall and they're waiting for the fall break, or they're waiting for Christmas break, because that's just the mentality of being in school. Here you get an opportunity to be around family. Mm-hmm. So while it might not be your blood family, it is your surrogate family, because, to give you an example, every Sunday there are, I would say, hundreds of different people that come on this campus to take these students to church, different churches throughout Richmond. That's not going to happen in many campuses. You're talking about a school that graduated Douglas Wilder, the first black African-American elected governor. And then you think about all the churches, the church pastors that have come through the theological department, which is one of the top ones in the country. Then you start to understand the reality of Virginia Union. Birthed out of Lumpkin's jail, a slave jail. And when you understand that, you understand the resistance of a people. And that's the strength of Virginia Union, that while other HBCUs have closed, we're still here. We're still resilient. We're still strong. We're still making people better students. We're still making people better people. And that is the last thing we'll close with, is that you go wherever you want to go in life to go to school. The value of a school is, how do they develop you as a person? How do they shape you before you get that degree? There's many people that have degrees that are unemployed. How does that school experience make you a better future parent? How does that school experience make you a better husband or wife? And that is an important thing. In HBCUs, small colleges like this, many people meet their wife and their husbands in college, in smaller, intimate settings where they meet people and get to understand them, and through this close network, really understand and know who that person is. And then the value of coming back with the camaraderie and the friendship. So, why Virginia Union? Why not?
Well, Coach, you did a great job so far since you've been here, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys continue to build this thing into something even more prominent than what it is, and we wish you the best luck moving forward.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.